Okay, grade 8. We are doing lesson 6. Why did I write 5? Lesson 6. Constructive functions and the date. It starts on page 319. Okay? Like I have told you, lesson 1 to 6 are all connected. We have done everything. Okay? Here you just have to do a little bit of explaining, but the process is the same. You must know how to read. You must know what the question is asking you to do. You must know if you've answered all the parts to the question. How to check if you've answered correctly. How to answer in a complete sentence. How to find slope from a story, a graph, a table, or an equation. Must know how to find the y-intercept from a story, graph, or a table, or an equation. You must know how to interpret the slope and how to interpret the initial value. Another name for initial value is y-intercept. Okay? All right, so let's read this one. Rhoda has some books on her shelf. Each month she plans to add 8 books. There. Already I should know this is my slope. 8. Okay? Because it's 8 each month. Rhoda had 144 books after 12 weeks. This is a point. So what am I going to write? I have 12 is my x, 144 is my y. Okay? Assume the relationship is linear. Okay? That means y equals to mx plus b. Find and interpret the rate of change and the initial value. They're asking me to find the slope and they're asking me to find the y-intercept. That's what rate of change means and that's what initial value means. Okay. I already know the slope. It is right there. I don't need to find it. So I will write it directly over here. I will write it directly over here. The rate of change is 8 books per week. 8 books per week. Okay? So, interpreting the rate of change, each week or every week, Rhoda will add 8 new books to her bookshelf. Okay, so I've interpreted this. Now, I don't know my y-intercept, but I know my slope is 8. So I need to find my y-intercept. I can do it very many ways. I can do point slope form. Which is y minus y1. M bracket x minus x1. Y minus 144 equals 8 bracket x minus 12. Y minus 144 equals to 8x minus 96 plus 96. No, this one. I draw my bridge plus 144 plus 144. Why? Because I want y by itself. This house goes away. Y equals to 8x. Negative 96 plus 144 should be 48. Negative 96 plus 144, 48. You see? I can subtract even without the calculator. So positive 48. The initial value is 48. What does this mean? Rother had 48 books already on the shelf before she began adding the 8 books per week. So remember, initial value means the starting value. Whatever you had before you began to do anything. The beginning number. What number was there before you began driving? What number was there before you began adding or subtracting? So this is reading. If you cannot read, it will be impossible for you to write these sentences. You should know how to read. It is very important to know this. Okay? All right. So I have found my rate of change. That's what the question told me. I have interpreted. I have found my initial value. I have interpreted. Okay? All right. Let us do... So here are words that represent each property of a linear function. If you see these words, they belong to y. If you see these words, they belong to m, or the slope. If you see these words, they belong to x. If you see these words, all of them, they belong to y-intercept. This you should know. Okay? All right, let's do when we have a table. So the table shows how many cakes Yara is selling. Assume the relationship between the two quantities is linear. So that means y equals to mx plus b. Find and interpret the rate of change. That means find the slope. And the initial value means find the y-intercept. Now slope, I'm going to use whole numbers. So my first point is 12 for 50, and my second point is 2, 725. y2, y1, x1, x2. So let's find slope. So slope or rate of change y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 725 minus 450 over 22 minus 12. This is 5. This is 7. This is 275. Let us check. 725 minus 450, 275. 22 minus 12 is 10. My slope is 27 and 50. And because it is money, I have to put the hundredths place. AD. So I'm going to write here. My slope is, my rate of change is 2750 AED per cake. So for every cake you buy at Yara's place, you will pay 2750, or she will make 2750. That's what this is saying. Okay? All right. So Yara gets 27 dirhams and 50 fils for every cake she sells. For every cake she sells. Okay. Now I need to find my initial value. So there is no number with 0 on x. So that means I need to solve. Okay, I will do y-intercept. I will do point slope, or I will do it two different ways. Point slope or slope intercept form. Okay, so let's do point slope. Y minus y1 equals m bracket x minus x1. Which pointer will I use? I want to use whole numbers. So 12 and 450. So this is my x1, this is my y1. Y minus 450 equals to m 2750. 2750 bracket x minus 12. Y minus 450 equals to 2750 goes to x and goes to negative 12. So 2750 times 12 is 330. Negative 330. Okay? Because a positive times a negative is a negative. I do my bridge, plus 450 plus 450. Y equals to 2750 x plus 450 minus 330. 450 minus 330 is 120. So there, this is my y-intercept. So my initial value is 120 AED. Okay, now let's do it using slope intercept form. Y equals to mx plus b. Y is 450, m is 2750 bracket x plus b. What is your x? 12. 450 equals to 2750 bracket 12 plus b. 2750 times 12 should be 2750 times 12 should be 330 plus b, 450. I draw my bridge, subtract 330. It is up to you which method you use. You should get the same answer. Okay? If you do this method or this method, it doesn't matter. Either one of them should give you. So what is the initial value? So what is Yara doing? Selling. So before she started selling, when she opened her store, in her drawer, she had 120 dirham. That's what this means. Okay? So before she started selling, cakes, Yara had 120 AED in her, it's called a till, the cashier till. It's called a till, okay? That machine where the cashier sits at is called a till. Okay? You cannot open a store in the morning and not have money. You need money to give people change. Okay? So that's why Yara had 120 dirham inside. Because if somebody comes with 500, she should be able to give the person change. So she needed to have money in the till before she opened the door for the first customer. That is what this means. Okay? Did I forget to do something? Yes, over here, Oh, I forgot to do the other method. Let's do the other method and see if we're going to get 48 over here. So we're going to do y equals to mx plus b. My y is 144. My m is 8. My x is 12 plus b. Okay? 144 equals to 96 plus b minus 96 minus 96, b equals to 48. So either you do slope intercept or you do point slope form. You're still going to get the same answer, 48. All right. So we've done table, we've done story. Now let us do graph. Okay? All right. The graph below shows the weight of a bucket as it is filled with sand. So, what does that tell me? I need to be asking myself, was the bucket empty when I was beginning to fill sand? Was the bucket already with sand before I started adding more? So those are the questions we need to ask ourselves. Find and interpret the rate of change and the initial value. So this is weight of a bucket. Weight of a bucket in pounds and the amount of sand in pounds. So I find points. I have this point. I have that point. I have this point. See, I have that point, and that point. Okay. Now, what did I want to say? Here is my y-intercept. So 0, 1. 0, 1 is the initial value, so I can write it there. I told you the line, the graph, together with your y-axis, where they meet, that is the y-intercept. Where your graph meets the y-axis is the y-intercept. So what does that mean? The bucket weighed, with no sand, the bucket is 1 pound. Because x is 0, so 0 for sand. X is sand, 1 is, y is, this is x, this is y. Y is weight of bucket. So when the sand was, when there is no sand in the bucket weighs 1. So that's what that means. So the initial value is 1 pound. This means when the bucket is empty, when the bucket is empty, or it does not have sand, it does not have sand, it weighs 1 pound. So that's me interpreting the initial value. From the graph, you just go there and get the y-intercept. You don't have to calculate. If you want to calculate, that's up to you. Now we need to find our rate of change. So I will pick any 2 points. I will pick 0, 1, and I will pick 2, 3. See, 2 goes with 3. 2, 3. So x2, y2, x1, y1. Slope equals y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. 3 minus 1, 2 minus 0. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. My slope is 1. So the rate of change is 1 pound. So every time Every time I put a pound of sand, for every pound of sand, the bucket increases, the bucket weight increases by 1. Okay? So, the rate of change is 1 pound of sand per 1 pound of weight. So, interpret the rate of change for every pound of sand, the bucket weight increases by 1 pound. There. And I have answered and interpreted the question. So there is one thing I wanted to talk about the graph. Just quickly making a point. I needed to make sure you've truly understood this. On your examples, example A and example B. What happened to my book? Just bear with me a little bit. Yes, here. All right. When you notice this graph, it started over here. It doesn't go to your y-axis. So you have two options. Either you find 2 points and then you find the slope, and then you use the point-slope formula to get your y-intercept, or the slope-intercept formula to get your y-intercept. If you don't want to do that, then you take your ruler and you join all your points until you get to the y-axis. And as you can see, your graph is touching the y-axis at 30. So you can solve and get 30, or you can draw the line and get 30. It is up to you. But there are times when it is not clear what number this is. You don't know exactly what number this is. You don't know whether it is 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 or 14 or 14.5 or 14.8 or 10.2. You don't know. So because it is not clear, because your line is in the middle of the box, this one you should calculate. This one you should calculate. Here you don't need to calculate. You just use the ruler and you get your y-intercept, because it is going directly to 30. Here, because it's not going directly to a number, please calculate. Use point slope or use slope-intercept formula. Okay? I do your examples and I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah.